That scene with Kagura looking up at Odd Jobs and you see the flashback, that really sets the tone for this arc. Of what this arc stands for, but also it really makes you realize that this is what the manga readers have been talking about for a very long time. They've been constantly saying that Gintama is not going back to happier times. The final stretches towards the conclusion of the series is happening, and you clearly see it in this new arc we're getting into, with Odd Jobs actually splitting up and putting their letters of leave down on the table, even Sadaharu doing it. It just lets us know that the next time that Odd Jobs probably finally gets together again to start doing what they're normally doing is when the series probably concludes. And it really hits you like a fucking truck. You're like, damn. Everything we have seen from Gintama since the very beginning, all of our characters, Odd Jobs has been together doing these wacky jobs all the time. But that's not what this arc is about now. Odd Jobs is now left, and they now are split up, and they're doing their own thing of what they need to do. And this just lets us know that there's just no going back. It's like entering the final stages of a series, and that's what this is. When you see Kagura, she goes off and does her own thing, and she states like, I love my family and all that, I have at Odd Jobs, but I need to protect my other family too. And she's going off and trying to help out her father and brother. That's such an emotional moment, because you realize, damn, this character, Kagura, has been with our entire crew the entire time since the beginning of the series, and now she's separating and doing her own thing. It just really puts this arc in a whole new perspective. I mean, we all have heard about, even anime onlys, that supposedly Gintama is coming to a close very soon, but just for that to be stated, just for Kagura to do what she did in this episode, but also all of, the disciples coming together to work together to take down the government and, change the world and take down the big villain. It's just crazy. It really is happening. All this stuff that we have all seen, hinted at constantly throughout the ride of Gintama since early stages of the series, it's finally happening. And when you see that one moment in this episode with Sakamoto, Katsura, and Gintoki, and they're together taking down Nobunobu, it just makes you realize, holy shit, these characters that are really badass, that, never really worked together a lot in other arcs, they're finally together and about to take down the big bad, together. And you're like, damn, this is freaking cool. I mean, Sakamoto, what he did in this episode, it really hits you too. You know how he's like, oh, what's going on with Gintoki and Takasugi? That's just what they've always done. They've always had these little spats and all that where they argue, and I have to come in and fix it and make sure everything's back in order. And just to see the relationship between the disciples and how now they all need to work together to take down Utsuro, it's crazy. So, yeah, I mean, this new start of Gintama, it's back. It's coming back in 2017. It's definitely different. It's completely different from whatever I have seen previously from Gintama. Usually Gintama likes to throw in jokes here and there, which this episode did have a joke. But, I mean, overall, it was a very serious episode, just like the last one. And it's just still so unsettling to see something like this in a series that's constantly brought me hilarity, where I've always wanted to laugh every episode. It really, holy crap. So, let's talk about just how badass it was that Gintoki and Sakamoto and Katsura, how badass they were when they took down Nobunobu. That was a freaking epic scene of this episode. Because Nobunobu, I'm glad he got defeated like that, because it saves so much fucking time, but it also shows what this arc is really about. See, this arc easily could have focused on taking down Nobunobu. The entirety of an arc could have focused on that, taking down Nobunobu and overthrowing the government. And if you really think about the plot of Gintama since the very beginning, it's always kind of been about the shogun, taking down the shogun, overthrowing the government. That's kind of what they've always wanted to do. But in this episode, that objective was kind of accomplished in such a quick amount of time, it was just rather surprising. I mean, Nobunobu got knocked out quickly and all that, and everything disbanded because, everybody's left. The Shinsengumi has left and all that, and nobody's there to really protect the Shogun anymore, and so he was easily wiped out like it was nothing. And it's just crazy how this big plot thread that's been built up for a while was finally concluded with this episode, thanks to the help of Sakamoto and Katsura, and Gintoki helping as well. It's just like, damn, that was concluded. That could have been an entire arc just focused on that, but it's not. It's getting right into the bigger picture, the big problem, which is Shoyo, the teacher of Gintoki, and damn. So, there is one thing this episode does confirm. It confirms that Takasugi is not dead. He's not dead, he's still alive. He's just unconscious still. And right now, we have our famous legendary bounty hunter, which is Kagura's father. She is trying to stop the dispute between her brother and her father, and Kagura's father is trying to kill his son. And right now, I can already see that this arc is going to be very emotional just for Kagura, because, she's had this, plot thread building up for a while, like the connection with her brother to, her father, and also her mother as well. It's been built up for a good long while, and this, big plot point is finally becoming the full attention of what this arc is going to be about, but also the main threat, which is Utsuro, and Oboro's actual connection to Utsuro as well. Actually, let's talk about that for a second. Oboro is a character that was introduced a while ago, and just now with this episode, we finally found out his connection to Utsuro and why he's been helping out Shoyo and all that in the past, or why, he was, working behind the scenes. Now we know what his role was. This is someone that was saved by Utsuro, and Utsuro gave his own blood up to Oboro to save him and let him to continue on living. But what we found out from Utsuro in this episode is that even though he gave his blood, which is of an immortal, and he's actually lengthening the life of Oboro to continue on living, it doesn't still stop the age. For instance, he will eventually die. It just increases the length of his time of his life, but he will eventually still die. Maybe he might be able to live 500 years, but he will eventually die. It's just gonna happen eventually. Unlike Utsuro, which is an immortal, and he can live on for the rest of, all of eternity, and there will be no stopping to it unless something is done. So yeah, Oboro, he's on a timer right now, and it's very likely he's gonna die very, very, very soon. I could see probably one big major fight with him, and he's probably going to die. And I guess this adds a very interesting trait to Utsuro's character, and how he can give, his blood to others to give them slight immortality. That is cool. I wonder if that's going to be used on any other characters throughout the rest of Gintama, or if it was only used on Oboro, and that's all we're going to see from that little aspect of Utsuro's character. Now, regardless of that, though, I do like how Takasugi and all the disciples are kind of becoming the bigger spotlight right now of this arc, of how they have to come together, work together, and take down the villain. It's something I've wanted to see for a very long time. I've always wanted to see these characters to throw aside their differences and all that, and finally come back to what they were supposedly in the past, and actually help each other to take down what's really important. So yeah, arc is looking amazing. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about what's going on right now with, the disciples, to what's going on with Utsuro, to Oboro's, characterization with this episode? How do you feel about what's going on with Kagura, and how, she's trying to stop the dispute between her family? How do you feel about all the different details we found out with this episode? I love you all so much. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.